Hi, my name is Jules Sadar, and I'm here today to talk about parental rights, more specifically, father's rights. My ex kidnapped my daughter many years ago for over 4.5 years, and I had to battle her in court for 8 years. I've actually written a book about the experience. It's called WeHaveYourDaughter.com, and it's called We Have Your Daughter, but it's on WeHaveYourDaughter.com. And one of the things that I really try to stress in all of this is that the court systems seem to be a little unfair. In today's economy, a man, all he has to be is accused of something, and he has to prove himself innocent, irregardless of whatever it is that they're accused of. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what else happened. It's because my ex was mentally ill, and because she was mentally ill, things escalated to a degree where it really affected my daughter, and I realized that I had to do something in order to get her. I do want to read some statistics. 1 in 4 adults, approximately 6.1 million Americans, experience mental illness in any given year. About 3.6 million, live with serious mental illness such as schizophrenia, major depression, or bipolar disorder. Approximately 20% of all youths ages 13 to 18 experience severe mental illness disorders in a given year. For ages 8 to 15, the estimate is 13%. Approximately 26% of all homeless adults staying in shelters live with serious mental illness, and an estimated 46% live with severe mental illness and/or substance abuse. 70% of our youth in the juvenile system have at least one mental health condition, and at least 20% live with a severe mental illness. Approximately 20% of all state prisoners and 21% of all jail prisoners have a recent history of mental illness. Approximately 1 in 1.1 of American adults, about 2.4 million, live with schizophrenia. Schizophrenia affects both men and women equally. It most often appears in men in their late teens or early 20s, while it appears in women in their late 20s and early 30s. It interferes with a person's ability to think clearly, manage emotions, make decisions, and relate to others. Schizophrenia impairs a person's ability to function to their potential when it is not treated. Psychosis, psyche equals mind, osis equals illness, is defined as an experience of loss of contact with reality, and usually involves hallucinations and delusions. These statistics come from the National Alliance on Mental Health and Mental Illness. And it is sad that in today's economy, what we find is that even if the parent who has the child has mental illness, it doesn't really seem to matter. Again, my ex was diagnosed with schizophrenia, with psychotic episodes. The court knew this. They had numerous accounts of her being in a hospital and hospitalized several times for that, and yet the court still thought it was better to keep my daughter with her than with me. And because of that, and she knew that I was going to fight with her, she kidnapped my daughter for 3.5 years at the first time. One morning I get a call from social services and they say, Mr. Zudar? And I go, yes. And they said, we have your daughter. And that's where the title for my book comes from. When I first saw my daughter, I was a little aghast at what she looked like. But in any event, I got her. I tried to put my family back together again because my book is a book based on faith. It's based on forgiveness. And being a Christian man, I tried to put our family back together again. And then again, she disappeared with my daughter for another 1.5 years. I'd like to read you some other statistics. 63% of all youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 85% of all children that exhibit behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 90% of all homeless and runaway children come from fatherless homes. 75% of all adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from fatherless homes. 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions come from fatherless homes. This information is gathered from the following sources: the U.S. Department of Justice, the Bureau of Census, the Department of Health and Human Services. What does that mean? That means that children are more likely to commit suicide, end up in prison, abuse drugs, have behavioral disorders, drop out of high school, and 20 more times likely to end up in prison. Clearly, these statistics are not very good in terms of how the effect comes on to the children. We really need a system that will look at both sides, and that is to say we have to look at the health, mental health of the person who has that child. We also have to look at that it's not just one parent that is good in that home, it's both parents have to be in that home. And if both parents aren't there, there's going to be a serious lack in that child. And so what we as fathers, I think, are advocating is that give us a fair chance. Give us a fair standing. You know, it has affected my daughter to this day, some of the things that happen within that home, and I chronicle some of that in this book. I've started my second book because this is the first, then there's a second book, and then there's a third book. And it has affected me to this day too. And, you know, all we're asking for really is fairness from the courts. We don't want to have our children grow up so that they join gangs because that's a family, and let me tell you, those people will die for each other. We don't want our kids committing suicide because they don't feel that they have the communication or the love that they need. We don't need our kids going on drugs because they are so empty inside they're trying to fill it with something, whatever it is. And we don't need our kids walking the streets, running away because they are in an unloved home or in a home that doesn't provide the safety and the emotional needs that those children are looking for. All we're asking for is even break. Thank you.